Ferrari just created the one battle Charles Leclerc cannot afford to lose. Not because Lewis Hamilton is faster in every area, not because Hamilton is the future, but because Hamilton was brought in for the exact moments Ferrari usually gets exposed. Pressure, instability, and championship-level decisions. That is why 2026 is so dangerous for Leclerc. He should have the edge. He is younger, he knows the team, and this should be his moment. But Hamilton was not signed for sentiment. He was signed to bring control to a team that still does not fully have it. And once that happens, this is no longer just Leclerc versus Hamilton. It becomes a fight for Ferrari itself. So, can Leclerc beat Hamilton in 2026? In some ways, he probably should, but that answer gets less comfortable the longer you look at what Ferrari actually needs from this pairing. Because over one lap, the case for Leclerc is easy to understand. He is younger, he is already embedded inside Ferrari. He knows how this team works and how quickly one difficult weekend in red can become a much bigger story. He has lived that pressure for years, and when everything underneath him is alive, Leclerc can still produce laps that make almost any car look better than it really is. That is the driver Ferrari has spent years waiting on. The one who turns raw speed into authority. The one who stops feeling like Ferrari's future and starts looking like Ferrari's leader. Because if Leclerc cannot beat Hamilton now, then when exactly is this supposed to become his team? On paper, Leclerc should be in the stronger position, but Hamilton was not brought in to win the paper argument. He was brought in for the part Ferrari has never fully solved. What happens when the pressure rises and everything gets less clean? Ferrari did not need another talented driver. Ferrari already had one. What Ferrari needed was a reference point. Someone who knows the difference between pace and control. Someone who has spent years inside title-winning environments and understands what a team sounds like when it is functioning properly. That is the real value Hamilton was signed for. Because this is not just about whether Leclerc is faster. He probably is, at least over one lap. This is about whether faster is enough against a driver Ferrari may trust more when races get messy, strategy gets complicated, and the season starts asking harder questions than pure pace can answer. A regulation reset rewards the driver who understands the demands of the season quickest. New cars bring uncertainty. Uncertainty brings mistakes. And mistakes are usually where experience starts to matter most. Leclerc should have an advantage there. He knows Ferrari's systems. He knows how quickly confidence can turn into noise. That familiarity should help him. But Hamilton does not need to know Ferrari better on day one. He only needs to become relevant enough, early enough, that Ferrari starts listening to him more as the season develops. Because championships are built through cleaner Sundays, smaller mistakes, damage limitation, tyre management, energy management, and knowing when a difficult result is still a useful one. Hamilton has spent nearly 2 decades turning that kind of control into wins, titles, and team authority. So Leclerc's problem is not that Hamilton has to beat him in every area. Hamilton may not need to. He may only need to stay close enough for the fight to move onto ground that suits him more. And you can already see the outline of it. The early season has not shown a finished Hamilton hanging on to his name. It has shown something more complicated. Leclerc has looked stronger overall, yes, but Hamilton has also looked more comfortable than he did last year, more settled, more present in the fight. Hamilton does not need instant domination to become a serious problem inside Ferrari. He only needs credibility. Because Leclerc's best chance to win this fight may come before Hamilton fully settles in. Before Ferrari starts naturally leaning toward whichever driver feels more trustworthy when the margins get tight. That sounds harsh, but it is probably true. Hamilton was brought in to shake things up and bring stability. The more development matters, the more communication matters. The more Ferrari gets dragged into complicated weekends and difficult decisions, the more Hamilton's presence starts to make sense. Publicly, Ferrari will always talk like a team built on equality. But under real pressure, every team leans somewhere. Toward the driver with momentum. Toward the driver with clarity. Toward the driver who sounds most like certainty when everyone else is getting tense. Ferrari may never say that out loud, but if one of these two drivers controls the emotional center of the season first, the rest of the team will feel it. For Hamilton, the pressure is obvious. He has to prove this move was made to win, not to complete the story, not to wear red because it looked right at the end of his career, to win. But Leclerc's pressure may be heavier, because Hamilton has to prove this move still means something. Leclerc has to prove Ferrari never needed saving in the first place. That is the twist in all of this. Hamilton arrives as the outsider, but Leclerc may be the one carrying the bigger burden. He is the younger driver. He is the long-term bet. He is supposed to be the one Ferrari grows around. So if Hamilton arrives as the experienced solution and starts looking like the more complete Ferrari driver, Leclerc does not just lose races, he risks losing control of Ferrari. That is why this battle turns psychological long before it becomes mathematical. If Leclerc wins, most people will say that is what should have happened. But if he loses, the story changes instantly. The younger incumbent could not beat the veteran Ferrari brought in for leadership. And that is why the first half of the season matters so much. If Leclerc starts stronger and makes Ferrari feel naturally his, Hamilton is the one chasing. But if Hamilton stays close enough, or starts taking the key weekends as the year develops, Ferrari will begin to feel the pull of experience. Because teams under pressure trust the driver who makes the whole operation feel calmer. That is what Hamilton was signed to be, a certainty. Not necessarily the fastest driver in pure qualifying trim, not necessarily the future, but the man who can make a complicated season feel simpler. So can Leclerc beat Hamilton in 2026? Yes, absolutely. But to do it, he probably has to become something more than Ferrari's fastest driver. He has to become Ferrari's most complete driver. More patient, cleaner on Sundays, sharper under pressure, better at turning imperfect races into strong results, better at making Ferrari feel like his team when the season gets tense. That is the real test. Because Ferrari did not bring Lewis Hamilton in to replace Charles Leclerc as the future. Ferrari brought him in to challenge whether raw future is enough on its own. It is not really about whether the younger driver can outrun the older one. It is about whether Ferrari's next era belongs to the driver it spent years building around, or the driver it signed because building around talent alone was no longer enough. And if Leclerc is going to answer that, he has to do it before Hamilton turns experience into authority, then trust, then control. Because once that starts happening, this stops being a battle between teammates. It becomes a fight for Ferrari itself.